You're listening to That's Pretty Dark,
the podcast where we talk about all of the entertainment that scared us as children
and still haunts us as adults. So grab your flashlight and join us as we take a frightfully nostalgic look over our shoulders.
And under our beds.
And in our closets.
And together we'll realize, whoa, that's pretty dark.
Pretty dark. Oh yeah, I lost you. Yeah, you were gone for like 10 seconds.
Oh no.
But you're back now.
I'm here.
You're back and it's fine.
And you're back with us on That's Pretty Dark.
Yeah.
My name is Kaylin.
And I'm Christian.
Oh, Pavlovian noises.
Goza.
Those are good ones.
This is a sponsored ad for Goza. Really, any kind of alcoholic brands, any coffee brands, we're down. Mental health brands.
Yeah.
We want all the brands. Anyway,
I think we're getting way ahead of ourselves.
I'm glad that you're here and you're keeping us on track. And also, I'm glad that you're the one telling the story. Again, this is your second time in a row.
I am telling a story today. Season 1, episode 2 of Are You Afraid of the Dark, which is a pretty popular episode, actually. It's the tale of laughing in the dark. And I got super excited when I sat down to watch this. So I've been watching the episodes on Paramount Plus, which is basically, it used to be CBS app. But anyway, I was really excited because the air date was my actual birthday, it said.
Ooh.
August 21st, 1992, which is my birthday. And that, like, literally the day that I came Earthside, became a human, day that I was born. And I was really stoked about that. But then I thought about it a little bit, and I was like, well, I was born on a Friday. I happen to know. And Are You Afraid of the Dark was then on a block of program, like we mentioned, called SNCC, which airs on Saturdays.
Right.
And I was like, I don't think that's correct. So after I looked it up on IMDb and Wikipedia and areyoufraidofthedarkfandom.com, I learned that the original air date is not my birthday, but is in fact August 22nd, 1992. So it's the day after I was born. I was a day old, which, I guess that's still cool. Not as cool.
I will say, I looked that up and I saw that too. And I was like, well, I'm going to let her have this.
You were like, she lied to me when she told me it was on her birthday.
No, I didn't think you lied to me, but I was like, she got some bad information. She talked to the wrong person in the wrong alleyway.
Yeah, and it turned out that was Paramount Plus. They're off on all of their air dates, so I won't be using those.
Hey, well, screw you, Paramount Plus.
No, I mean, I'm glad they exist, but...
All right, I guess they should provide you some content.
I wouldn't, just let them be who they are, even if they're wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it aired originally the day after I was born. And it was also directed by Ron Oliver, and he directed episode 1 as well. And it was written by the show's creator, DJ McHale, under the pen name Chloe Brown, like we discussed before.
Brown.
So they're teaming up again for episode 2.
Yeah, I was thinking about that. Do you think he that's his like stage name for when he does drag?
Maybe. I mean, yeah, maybe. It could be. I'd really like to know.
I'd watch it.
Yeah, me too. I mean, would it be like spooky drag, like Halloween drag?
That's what I'm thinking.
Yeah, I'm good with it.
I think he'd be like,
But maybe it was back then in the 90s. Maybe, maybe he doesn't do it today. He may.
Yeah, that's what he was doing up in Canada. Super taboo stuff. Full skeleton regalia, like the face paint, like all the...
Phoebe Bridgers?
Yes. Yes.
My favorite singer is obsessed with skeletons and all of her
Hey, Phoebe, follow our show. Be our friend.
Oh, geez. That'd be another
We
level.
think you're great.
We don't think that we're going to get famous, by the way. We know that we're talking to each other and maybe, our parents or something. But it's fun to dream, right, folks? Can't we dream? Just let us dream.
You don't think we're going to get famous. But
I mean, it's a dream. It's a hope.
I'm banking on it. I'm putting all of my eggs in this basket.
I was about to say, all the eggs.
Here
we go.
I only have like 3 eggs. They're all going in this basket.
Well, between your 3 eggs and my 2 eggs, I guess that's not that many eggs.
We have 5 eggs. I can do math. I have a college degree.
Well, would you like to hear a summary of the episode right now?
I would love nothing more.
So IMDb says, in the tale of Laughing in the Dark, a kid named Josh decides to prove that a fun house isn't haunted by stealing the nose of the clown who is supposed to haunt the place. He learns that the story isn't fiction when Zeebo pays him a little visit.
A little visit or a big ol' visit?
It says little. So,
I
mean, I guess it's to your discretion.
Oh.
I summarize the episode to be, A tough guy named Josh strives to antagonize everyone around him, and when a dare is extended to teach him a lesson, he also tries to antagonize the creepy AF rumored ghost clown inside the local theme park's funhouse, which we know never goes well.
He's a little punk.
Oh, hey, I call him a punk ass like 4 times
Yes.
in my notes, so don't worry. I'm aware of just how much of a punk ass this child is.
In true 90s children fashion, do you want to hear a breakdown of all the insults, all the sweet, sweet burns from this episode?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I'm going to cover them too, but they're in my notes, but I want to hear them all laid out in front of me.
Again, I could easily miss these. I'm making notes and I'm watching the show and I cannot multitask to save my
He's not
my
wrong.
Poor life. So
he's not wrong at all.
Anyway, here are the sweet burns that I have listed. Sarcastically, we have Miss Perfect, Snitch, Twerp, which is it's used multiple times in different ways. Actually, very, very creative ways. Twerpy sister, twerpy chicken, and also just twerp.
Yeah, that's true.
And there's also just chicken, complete with chicken sound effects, like clucking, flapping of wings. It's great.
I would like to track the number of times we hear clucking and chicken sound effects in this show.
Okay.
I think that we should, because it's a lot.
Yeah, okay.
This, I think, is number 2 overall, and we're in episode 2. So you know what I mean? Like, there's a lot of these.
Well, it's used like 3 times in this episode, too. So... Are we counting like
yeah, we should count individual occurrences.
Oh, God. We'll have to go back. I'm going to review.
Okay.
I don't really need a reason to go back and watch the show again, but we have Mr. Brave Young Lad, which I thought was pretty good. Still like kind of sarcastic, kind of in his face. A real foul ball.
Yep.
Which was my favorite one. That's the other sports reference. The baseball reference. Yep.
Yeah.
A phoebe.
Yeah, I have that note as well.
Which was new to me. Have you heard of that before?
New to me as well. I had not heard it before, but I did look it up, and it is short for a feeble-minded person.
See, I found a foolish or stupid person. But phoebe,
it's
being short for feeble-minded, that makes a lot of sense.
Yes.
You're smarter than me. I get it. You're everybody's favorite, whatever. So we have...
I mean, I wasn't going to say it.
Lame ball.
I liked that one.
Lame ball's good. Doofus.
Classic.
Gutless. Gutless.
That's something about gutless really, like, I don't know. There's something very visceral about that.
Yeah, gutless. But it was used so like passively. It was just a throwaway line. It was like, hey, gutless. Dummy, which is, classic. And last but not least, such a snot.
That's a good one. I used to call my sister a snot. I'm sorry, Carrie, if you're listening to this. I did, because she was at the time, and she would probably
I want Carrie to tell us how that made her feel.
She probably called me worse.
We should exchange that. We should have her on. We should dig deeper into this.
What was the worst thing?
Figure out your sibling rivalries.
She loves all of the 90s stuff, so I'm sure she wouldn't be opposed.
Sweet. Well, that's a breakdown of all the insults, all the sweet,
thanks for that.
Burns.
Insult, sweet burn breakdown. Appreciate that.
I have to find a new way to describe that. Sick burns.
So I have a little note here where I'm like, okay, yeah, of course they come out of the gate with clowns, they being, the creators of Are You Afraid of the Dark. And personally, I've never really been afraid of clowns. Clowns don't really do it for me.
Same.
Except for that summer, like 2016, when everybody was dressing up as clowns and hiding in playgrounds and stuff.
Yes.
And they were acting like they were about to start the purge.
Summer of Fear.
I didn't like that.
Yeah, that was pretty spooky.
I didn't like that at all. So then I started to think about that, and I was like, well, I've always wondered, and I've never looked up how and why that started. I think I heard at the time and just forgot, but that incident in 2016 was originally sparked by some British filmmakers in 2013. They created this Facebook page for what they called the Northampton Clown, and then they were using the sightings to drive traffic to their page. And then in 2016, there are photos posted of this clown that was roaming a vacant parking lot under a bridge in Green Bay, Wisconsin. And then after that, they created a Facebook page claiming that clown's name was Gags.
Ugh.
And then it was confirmed that it was a marketing stunt when the filmmaker in Wisconsin announced that the pictures were for a short film that they titled Gags.
Yikes.
And I mean, I am all for weird marketing. I think that's cool, good on you. But did it have to be like that? And did you have to go near schools and playgrounds? And did you have to name him Gags? That part. Right. That was a little much. We're living in delicate times, friends. Yeah, we didn't need it.
Be creative, be original, but not at the expense of the public mental health.
Yeah, I struggled. I didn't like it.
Terrifying.
It's a lot.
It's too much.
Yeah.
It really is too much.
So yeah, all that to say, clowns don't really scare me, but those clowns did scare me, so I thought I'd tell you about them.
The only clown that really scares me is Pogo the Clown, and that was John Wayne Gacy.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
That one,
that's the only clown that really gets me.
Yeah. Other than that, clowns aren't. It's the image of a clown isn't gonna really spook me. Even Pennywise really doesn't frighten me, you know?
No. I mean, if we'd been around, when that book was published, maybe. Yeah, it's wild. So anyway, but yeah, we'll have more clown talk as we go, I'm sure.
I'm sure we will, but I just wanted to point that out.
I love that. That's good.
And so as we're getting into this, I was kind of pumped for this episode because both Christian and I share a love of fun houses and carnivals and very much into that sort of aesthetic and idea. And then I actually worked very briefly at an event venue in town where our fair came through. Yeah. And I mean, I'm sure I don't have to tell anybody that, I mean, I'm not speaking ill of anybody that I worked with. It was all great and no incidents occurred, but
no rogue clowns or anything like that.
Nothing that I saw, but it's all bright and shiny on the outside and they want things to look all bright and shiny, but there's always a sinister vibe to kind of the backside of those traveling attraction type things. And I feel it's probably just really hard to get past the very exploitive roots of the carnival and circus and all that stuff. They never would want the venue employees, just the event venue employees, to walk the midway after dark. They basically told us not to go out there. And it was just kind of spooky and creepy.
Because of all the carnies that are just that was
too.
Their territory.
Carnies and but I mean, most of them were very lovely people. I don't mean to speak ill.
That makes me want to ask if anybody else has experiences working at fairs or carnivals.
Yeah, I'd love to know.
Tell us your behind the scenes spookiness. What happens after hours?
Yeah.
Tell us your stories. I've heard some of yours, Kaylin,
yes.
and those stick in my mind with a couple visuals that you've given me. But you don't want to speak ill, so I won't ask you to tell them. But I want to hear them, so please send in your story.
Yeah, let us know. That stuff is very interesting. So yeah, and I do have a note that the story begins in the story world, rather than around the campfire, the Midnight Society. And apparently it's only one of 2 episodes to do that and open inside a story rather than around the campfire.
Yeah. And we've now covered both of those.
Right. And now those 2 are behind us, which is crazy, but they were just kind of probably finding their footing, just like we are right now. So I understand that they didn't, they didn't know exactly how they wanted to do it, but I don't mind it. I kind of like when you start off in the story, but in the episode we open, there's this, the neon glow of the amusement park that's called Playland, and then the narrator is describing that it's the perfect place to laugh and scream or get scared to death.
Yeah, and eat junk food.
Yeah, just the best night. And then the audience gets to see a glimpse into this spook house, they call it, a fun house. And there are all these jump scares and monster dummies. There's Frankenstein, and then there's Frankenstein's monster, I should say.
Yeah.
My dad would be just so offended if I got that wrong.
Frankenstein's creation. He's not even a monster.
Frankenstein's creation.
Otherwise known as Adam.
Apologies, Adam.
The
I don't
monster
mean to offend.
originally known as.
Formerly.
God.
You good?
Yep.
Okay.
I'm good. I haven't slept.
And I have worked all day, so we're pair right now. We're gonna have
you
fun.
Guys are really in for a ride.
Enjoy.
A spook house, if you will.
We're having fun though. We're enjoying it. We hope you are too. So yeah, all these ghouls and scares, and then there's this hall of numbered doors at the end, and then behind one of the doors, number 6 to be specific, is this clown Zeebo, and they reveal the clown in the intro. And then at the mention of this clown, we jump out to the Midnight Society campfire, and we learn that Betty Ann is the one that's submitting this story. And then the society member, Kristen, she is out. She's not with it. She doesn't want to do this.
She hates clowns.
Hates clowns. So we're now, in the context of the Midnight Society, and we're figuring out kind of some of their plots and plans, because they realize she's afraid of clowns, and we're learning their dynamic and how they're interacting with each other.
Yeah.
And then I did want to mention this. I never really realized this as a kid, but apparently in the first season of Are You Afraid of the Dark, I've only learned it since kind of researching, but each member of the Midnight Society had a common theme. So actually Betty Ann's stories were usually supernatural, so that it was ghosts and zombies and other characters trying to break into our world or trying to drag the main character into their own world, apparently.
Yeah.
Which is kind of cool. And all of her stories tend to have pretty ambiguous endings, where the evil either gets away, manages to escape, or then it's hinted to return. So kind of cool.
Like any good ghost story.
Right.
That's great. So do you have a breakdown of all the characters and their little...
I don't have it here, but I can. I figured we can just say it as we move into...
That's cool. I didn't realize that, but I imagine that made assigning stories much easier.
Yeah. And from what I read, they don't continue that in the other iterations, the other seasons of Are You Afraid of the Dark, as the Midnight Society changes. They actually don't continue that. So that's kind of
So it's
wild.
just the original.
Right. just these guys.
Interesting.
Yeah, but I thought it was kind of cool, so I wanted to mention it.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And I never knew it, so I
didn't know that either.
Really new. And speaking of learning things,
oh yeah.
So for a second, like I said, Kristen's afraid of clowns, so they start to taunt her. And I think, what's his name that you like, Eric?
Yeah.
Blonde kid, Midnight Society. Yeah, your favorite. He's like, oh, she has bozophobia.
Bozophobia.
And I was like, I don't think that's right. And so I looked it up to make sure, and sure enough, that is not correct. Urban Dictionary does recognize bozophobia, but the actual term for being afraid of clowns or fear of clowns is coulrophobia.
Okay.
It's COULRO phobia. So
Love
yeah,
it.
that is interesting to me. So if you need a fun fact to whip out and impress any grammar nerds that you know, particularly maybe at a Halloween party, or if you're like planning to mansplain something later, but I really hope that you don't. That's a good fact.
Actually,
it's coulrophobia.
you bozo.
Oh, that'd be good.
Yeah.
So then our bozophobic friend, Kristen, she's like, okay, I'll listen to the story. And the audience is whisked back to the amusement park playland.
I have one thought.
Oh, yeah. Oh, tell me your thought.
There was another first in kind of figuring out, I guess, the structure of the show, but there was a false start. Like in the other episode, the pilot, where we kind of open on a storytelling, it's not the story being told for our episode. This, Betty Ann was beginning to tell her story before she threw the midnight dust. So I thought that was interesting. Gary has to, he hands her the bag and he goes, start for real this time. So you can kind of see where like they sat down, and we talked before about her specifically. I feel like she's so different at the Midnight Society versus who she is in real life. So I feel like she got there. She was so excited, so pumped.
Yeah, she just couldn't wait.
And she sits down and they're like, cool, well, who's going? She's like, I am. Get ready. Here's the fair. Here's the carnival. Here's all this stuff. And they're like, whoa, hold on. And then he's like,
there's some ceremony here.
Yeah, start over. You got to do it right. So I thought that tracked for her character.
Yeah. And then they're also doing it for the audience to say there is structure. Like, we've created this narrative. We want you to understand what we're doing. So it eased us in.
Yeah.
And she was the right person to do that, I think.
Part of driving home that idea that like, no, this is ritualistic. This is how we do things.
Right.
And it makes you feel like you're included in this like society. So
learning their rules and regulations. So yeah, pretty cool.
So that we can all have our own midnight societies, and we can all do it.
I have my whole life. I've wished, and
this is ours. I mean, we've had one for what, 6 years now?
Yeah,
you and me, at least.
Yeah, we're always telling them scary stories.
Always.
Yeah, so then we jump back into Playland, and there's like this breeze blowing the characters' hair, and the neon lights, and the rides are like...
The fair has such a distinct feeling to it.
It really does. Like, it is so specific.
Don't all fairs have that? That nighttime, that kind of cool air.
Yeah.
You can feel the night.
You can. That has always been true for me in going to the fair. And our annual fair locally happens to come in like the autumn time.
Yeah.
Everyone's doesn't, but ours does. So it really...
Yeah, that was mind-blowing for me to realize as an adult. I was like, you mean not all fairs happen around Halloween?
Yeah. Some people go to the fair in the spring. It's crazy. It's
mind-blowing.
Definitely.
Well, we're going to say this one happens around Halloween.
Oh, I think so. So yeah, we get that vibe, and then we hear, this overlay of like a clown cackling in the distance. And then we meet our protagonist of the week, and I put it in my notes right here. A punk-ass kid named Josh, and two of his friends, a little sister named Kathy, and an older brother named Ouija.
Ouija, that is just the weirdest name.
Yes, and that's not the clown. That's the kid's name.
Hey, he's kind of a clown.
I feel like it feels very 90s, so I was okay with it. Ouija. Weege.
So the board game is pronounced Ouija. But forever people called it a Ouija board.
That's so true.
But it's Ouija.
I bet you that was a conversation. I did think of Ouija board the whole time as I was saying Ouija, but...
What is he calling this guy? And I looked it up on IMDb, and it was like Ouija. Anyway, so I was like, I wonder if that wasn't I don't know, a reference to
nod.
the occult. I don't know.
And speaking of Ouija and his friend Josh, I have a note on, the actors that play these fine children, these fine folks.
Fine children.
Josh is actually played by another Christian.
Oh, really?
Christian Tessier, and he's still a working Canadian actor. And very interesting point about him, he got his start on the Canadian sketch comedy show called You Can't Do That on Television.
Oh,
And if you've seen the Orange Years documentary, they talk a lot about You Can't Do That on Television and how it kind of spurred Nickelodeon as a network into what it is.
It sort of formed their style, the culture of Nickelodeon. It sort of basically formed and structured all of it.
Yeah, it really built that idea of what Nickelodeon is and that kind of irreverent.
Yeah.
I thought that was amazing. I was like, oh my gosh, that is that kid.
God bless it.
So yeah, he started on that show. He also appeared on Goosebumps and Battlestar Galactica and several episodes of Wayward Pines and Bates Motel. So he's just doing all this spooky stuff. Pretty cool. And then he also returns to Are You Afraid of the Dark in 1994, and he plays another bully in The Tale of the Curious Camera.
Really?
So,
okay.
Yeah, very cool.
Keep an eye out.
And he was definitely the most storied cast member here. Kathy is played by Tamar Kozlov, and she was a voice actor on Arthur, as was mentioned a couple episodes ago. Someone else did a voice role on Arthur.
Yeah, it was Kiki.
Yeah, okay, Kiki does. This girl did as well, and she actually voiced the character Prunella.
You know, that checks out.
Ouija's played by Daniel Feinstone, and strangely, like, his only other film credits included additional crew for a recent series about Chernobyl, which you may have heard of.
You mean HBO's Chernobyl?
Mm-hmm. But it just had additional crew. It didn't say what he did. And then also Titanic.
What?
Yeah. Back in the episode, so the three kids, Josh, Kathy, and Ouija, so they've left a roller coaster and they're teasing Kathy about barfing on her. And then they arrive in front of this spook house, this fun house where Kathy and Ouija, they're both like sketched out. And then Kathy's like, no, it's really haunted. Like, of course she would know. She's like a 9-year-old or something. Like, she has this information in her brain.
Yeah.
And then Ouija's like very reasonable and he's agreeing. He's like, yeah, I've heard stories, man. Like, that's pretty scary. I don't want to go inside. And of course, this prompts the classic childhood taunt of clucking chicken noises.
Yeah.
So here's our count. Clucking chicken noises. And then he's, acting like a chicken and acting like a little punk ass.
Give us your best chicken cluck.
Me?
Yeah.
Oh, bark, 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 bark. Yeah. It has to be very taunting and like sassy. Yeah. Bark, bark. I always think of Marty McFly and Back to the Future.
Oh, God. The best.
So yeah, he bumps into this carny and this guy's in a creepy like striped suit and he's acting all in their face and it's actually Aaron Tager again,
Same
who
guy.
played Dr. Vink in the last episode. So he's back to play this carny.
He was genuinely creepy in this episode.
Yeah, he's pretty weird.
As a carny, he is scary. His teeth
are all jacked. You don't want to run into him. Yeah, you don't want to run into him at all.
I was like really impressed with his performance.
And so he tells the kids, he's like, Zeebo is inside and there's this clown laughter that's, kind of punctuating as he's speaking. And then he says,
pick the right door and you go free. Pick the wrong door and there he'll be.
Ooh.
And then he encourages Josh to go inside, and then Josh wimps out like the punk ass that he is, and then he decides to come back another time. That's all. He doesn't go in at the time that we meet this carny. So then the next day, I guess, we join the kids at their house, and they're researching this attraction, and they found this newspaper that talks about this incident that occurred back in the 1920s. So back in 1924, this is Kathy and Ouija, they're reading about it. They say that a circus set up shop near Playland, and there was this clown from that circus who just nicotine addicted man, always chain smoking.
Smoking cigars.
And he makes off with the payroll for the circus, which was $4,000 at the time.
Yeah.
He fled with the money and the cigar. He fled into the spook house, and then while he was trying to hide from the cops, he trashed a cigar, and it ended up, the place burned down with him inside. So Josh
which gives
takes
us
this
the
moment.
Line.
Smoking's bad for your health,
yeah.
Which I thought was great. I appreciate
Say
that,
no to smoking, kids. Don't smoke cigars, boys and girls.
They had to insert that.
I loved it. I thought it was so great. My note here was, you worked at a fair. Is $4,000... Is that a lot of money?
Well, I'll tell you, actually.
I thought you might know.
I do know. I looked it up just to account for inflation. So in 1924, the payroll of $4,000, it would have been worth $37,200 in 1992 when the episode aired. So that for inflation, it would be worth more than $62,000 today.
Wow.
So, yeah, it's a lot of money.
Yeah.
And probably pretty close to accurate.
That's a lot.
Yeah. So he took off.
So the little sister's reaction to being like, whoa, It's like they just understood inflation back there. It's like,
they're just like
so
absorbed and they understand that today that would be so much money.
But I think even to like a 9-year-old, $4,000 to them though
sounds like a lot to me at
like,
their age.
It's a lot now. I mean, I would happily take $4,000.
I wouldn't sneeze at that. Yeah. So after Josh gives us, the PSA that smoking is bad for our health, they keep reading the story and they say that a couple years later, I guess with no regard to the tragedy of this man dying, they built a new Laughing in the Dark spook house, just the same fun house on the same spot. Yeah. And they included this time a dummy of the dead clown thief man at the end of the maze.
So irreverent.
And of course, this, the death, the unsavory nature of doing something like that, totally accepted. The kids are just like, yeah, that makes sense. That tracks. And I also, in the moment, I'm like, yes, that tracks.
And again, that's pretty dark.
That's pretty dark. That's
right
why
there.
We're doing this, is because there's just these moments of total, like, macabre, like, just unthinkable. Why would you ever rebuild it and, mock the death of this man?
I know. It's wild.
Everybody's cool with it.
That is not how you just, like, create a ghost and, like, a haunting. That is not how you do it.
Nah, man.
I mean, come on.
Apparently it is. Because legend has it that the ghost of Zeebo the Clown was trapped in the new spook house and he's haunting it for all time. I love the haunting it for all time. The very dramatic.
It's very dramatic.
He's always watching Wazowski.
Oh, no. Cease and desist.
So then, Josh keeps being his bully self and he mocks Ouija and Kathy for believing the legend. And then, like, he awkwardly tries to tickle Kathy.
Yeah, I hated that.
Like, he's just like, oh, ha, 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 and tries to tickle her.
These transitions.
Yeah, it was just like they had to get him outside somehow, I guess. But they run outside and she runs out to the curb and then she defends herself with the lid from a trash can, which makes sense. And then, of course, as if it's a cartoon, Josh then runs directly into the lid on the trash can.
Yeah.
That she's holding up like a shield.
It's perfect.
And she says, "Don't mess or I'll bung you in the head." Is what she says. And in my mind, I'm like, well, you just did. Like, you ran into your trash can lid.
Yeah,
shield,
like,
okay.
Didn't you just do that?
And this is when they start to say, all the fun, like a lot of the insults pop out. You guys are the Phoebes, feeble-minded.
Yes.
Maybe Ouija. Maybe Ouija calls Josh a lame ball.
Something.
But of course,
somewhere in there.
Ouija is all angry and defensive about the tickling, and I get that. Like, yeah, bro, don't touch his sister. We like consent. Not cool. And
please don't tickle little girls or anybody. First of all, don't tickle anyone, especially not women or little girls.
If you're wondering whether you should do that, don't do that.
Don't tickle me.
Please don't tickle me.
I'll bung you in the head.
We will bung you directly in the head. So, yeah. Ouija's all mad, and he dares Josh. He's like, oh, I dare you to enter the funhouse alone. Like, go in by yourself. And Josh is like this one-upping little punk-ass little kid, and he's like, okay, I not only will I go in, I'll go in and I'll steal Zeebo's nose to prove that I made it to the end. And then
raising those stakes.
Like, my first thought, having only a little bit of experience with theme parks and attractions of like that kind of nature, is that there's always a distinct entrance and exit to these things.
Yeah.
So if he comes out the exit, like, he went through. Like, he's not going to be able to just...
Yeah.
Like, I don't know why he needs to prove that he went through. Like, this is a one way in, one way out kind of scenario.
Because if he didn't, there wouldn't be a story, Kaylin.
I guess we needed the story. We needed the clown's nose, but, like, come on. Unnecessary.
Yeah, that's always my first thought, too, is, like, the logic. I'm like, yeah, you go in one way, you come out the other. You don't come out the entrance.
Yeah, that's not going to happen. But I think they even say in this moment, she's like, well, how do we know you're not just hanging out inside, just inside? I'm like, because he's going to come out the exit.
Right.
Anyway, so speaking of the red nose, I did make a funny note because as I was researching for this episode, I was getting a ton of ads, like targeted ads for Red Nose Day, like the campaign for ending children's hunger, child poverty and hunger.
Yeah.
I was getting all kinds of ads for it, but I never searched anything about Zeebo's nose specifically.
Really?
So I just wanted to be like, good on you, like SEO gods and magicians, like a job, because it worked somehow.
That's crazy.
I thought that was pretty funny.
I don't know if I like that or hate that.
I know. I kind of hated it in the moment. I was like, ugh, why do you know this?
Wild.
Back in Playland, Josh is like, they get back to the spook house and Ouija's like, admit you're scared. And Josh is like, no, I won't. And so then he stomps into the funhouse.
Well, he talks to the carny again.
Oh, he does. Yes, that's true.
Yeah.
He talks to the carny first. And then he goes.
Because that's where he gives the line, the title line.
It's the most fun in the park when you're laughing in the dark.
It's so good.
He says that again at the end. I haven't noted there,
yeah.
but I do think it's funny. A very fun little rhyming spooky dude.
It's spooky.
But yeah, he goes inside and there's all the same sorts of dummies and then like the classic, the mirrors, that you see in all the fun houses.
Yeah.
And with the lights and the sound effects and everything, I always think that's kind of fun. And then I really like the the animatronic dragon that pops out right into the walkway.
With real
there's like
flame?
full on pyro.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's everything. And I mean, there's like absolutely zero way that would be possible.
That's
like even
so
in the 90s when people
dangerous.
are like, rub some dirt in it, like you'll be fine, everything's okay, break your neck and double dare, no one cares. But no, that like you can't just send flames into the walkway of a children's attraction.
Actual
they
flames.
do in this, which is funny. Actual flames. And that's a walkway. Like he walks past it, it's just wild. But
a big point too, though, when he's looking through the funhouse mirrors and he's like, he sees himself all like stretched and elongated, and he's like, oh look, I'm Zeebo, ha ha ha. And
yeah.
Look at me, I'm Zeebo. Zeebo. Hand over the dough. What do you think I am, some kind of clown?
What do you think I am, some kind of clown?
And then the next mirror, Zeebo is behind the glass. Like it's
true, yes. You do see,
and he repeats his own line back to him. And he's super scary. I mean, that's the first shot of real Zeebo.
That's true.
The other Zeebo is just like a puppet, but that's like actual Zeebo.
The ghost.
What Zeebo would have looked like, and it's super spooky. I thought it was like pretty damn scary, honestly.
Unsettling to say the least.
Yeah.
And then he keeps going, stumbling around this maze in his Doc Martens. They had a really great shot of his like straight up Doc Marten boots, which was funny to me. And no worse for wear, he ends up at the end, and the first door that he chooses is the correct door, and the applause and sound effects begin. And then he like remembers, he's like, oh wait, I forgot, I am supposed to be making good on a bet here. And so he goes to look for Zeebo's door, and he finds Zeebo and then takes his nose, and then he taunts Zeebo because he's a bully and that's what bullies do. He pats himself on the back a little bit, and then he heads out the door. After he exits, of course, the audience sees this ominous light and smoke, and then there's shadows moving around under Zeebo's door. So he's coming for you, Joshy.
Gonna come for your punk ass.
So once he exits, then we cut back to Josh, and he's laughing, and, we just getting fed up with Josh's jokes and like incessant just taunting and nagging. And so he throws the nose away. I mean, we all knew the kid that like didn't know when to quit.
Oh yeah.
And just like plowed through a joke until it was just way too much and everybody's annoyed with you. And that's kind of the moment that we have with Josh, where it just kind of reaches a boiling point and nobody's having fun anymore.
We knew that kid and hated that kid.
Yes. And so Ouija throws the nose and Josh goes and gets it, and Josh decides to go home. And then we, as the audience, see some cigar smoke, and we hear that evil, like, laugh behind the house.
It's a great laugh.
Just ominous and ever-present in the episode.
Very spoopy.
So back at Josh's house, and I mean, this kid is like, 13, 14 years old. He gets home, and all that's waiting for him is this note from his parents and a plate of spaghetti, apparently, in the freezer.
Gotta love the 90s.
And it's just like the latchkey kid in the 90s, like with not a care in the world. Like, we're going to do fun things.
We'll be gone
dinner
all night.
We'll be gone. Yeah.
Don't get in any trouble.
And I mean, this is like the kid that would get into trouble, so I'm not sure why they trust
that's the
him
kid.
to leave him alone.
He turns his nose up at the spaghetti. I'm like, spaghetti night's the best night. I don't know who you think you are. It's second best only to pizza night. I mean,
it's also leftover though, or like maybe pre-prepared.
No,
so
anything Italian is better leftover. It's better the next time.
I guess that's true. Pizza's better the next day.
Always.
Yeah, but you know what wasn't better for me in this moment?
A few guesses.
Well, yeah. So he goes to microwave the spaghetti. So he puts that in the microwave, and then he immediately goes for this like giant, like punch bowl sized bowl of chocolate pudding. Everybody's favorite after school chocolate pudding. But the thing about this chocolate pudding that was very off-putting to me is that it was uncovered in the fridge. Just sitting in the fridge in a giant punch
Just
bowl.
sitting there collecting all kinds of flavors and smells.
Ew. Oh, I can't even think about it.
My thing is, I've never just like taken something out like food wise and just like stuck my fingers in it and just been like, I'm just gonna like lick this real quick.
And that's the other thing is that why is the bowl? No, okay. Here's my questions about this moment.
All right, here we go.
Why is the bowl so big? Why did they make such a giant bowl of chocolate pudding? First of all. Second, why is it uncovered? They didn't have enough saran wrap to cover it or tinfoil. There wasn't enough in the house because it was such a big bowl. Like maybe.
No. It was the 90s. Everybody had big giant bowls and saran wrap.
I just don't understand why it was uncovered. I thought about it for days afterward when I watched this.
That's funny.
Uncovered chocolate pudding. And then immediately he just digs in with his hand. Ugh. And not just a little bit on his fingers. Like he takes a handful of pudding and starts to lick it.
Ugh.
But I guess it's because of the next moment they had to set us up for it. He gets spooked because he hears footsteps. So he drops this giant bowl of pudding all over the floor.
Bothers me.
Yeah,
it's all over the floor now.
All over the floor. It's Kevin's chili on The Office.
Oh, God.
Except chocolate pudding.
Ugh.
So it's all over the floor. But he's spooked because he thinks he heard footsteps, right? Yeah. So he's like, he's trying to be all still. You know, it's this idea that he even has to be this tough guy while he's by himself. So he's hollering out. He's like, show yourself or you're going to get beaned. And he gets the baseball bat.
Another baseball reference.
More baseball.
More baseball.
The 90s and baseball.
America's favorite pastime.
He's digging through, the closet. He opens the door. There's nothing there. He's like, okay. He's trying to get a grip. The phone rings and he answers the phone and it's Ouija. And Ouija's like being the golden-hearted child that he is. And he's like, I'm sorry that I was, being a baby about the bet. Like, you won fair and square. You brought the nose back. I should have worn it. That wasn't fair. And basically apologizes about that, and then he agrees to wear the nose to school the next day.
Well, he doesn't really.
He tries to get out of it. He says, I was gonna
apologize and ask you to forget about it. And he's like, you're dreaming, pal. I'm like,
there's no way.
God, I hate this kid so much.
The worst. So yeah, he doesn't get out of it. He has to wear the nose to school tomorrow. Like, I can't imagine the horror of having to wear a red nose to school in the 90s junior high. Like, no, so sad for him. I wouldn't have. I don't think it would have bothered me that much, to be honest. But I had
wear a big red nose to your homeschool?
Yeah.
Of course not. It's homeschool.
Oh my God, don't even start. I was homeschooled, but we had a co-op. I had normal labs and classes and gym and drama and all that stuff. There were definitely kids there that weren't the nicest, but I don't think I would have cared what they thought if I was wearing a red nose. Like, it's my business, I had my fun on the weekend. This is my punishment. I have to wear this nose. Whatever. Like, I wouldn't care that much. But anyway, they hang up the phone, and then actually Josh gets another phone call. Mm-hmm. And this time, on the other end of the phone, there's this ominous voice, and it's just saying, give it back. Give it back.
Yeah. It's kind of a common theme in pop culture, horror pop culture.
The phone call?
Well, not just phone calls, but like taking an item or an object from something that then wants it back.
You have to return it, yes, to its rightful
What came
owner.
to mind for me was Alvin Schwartz's The Big Toe from Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark. Mm-hmm. There are others, and I think there's another one he tells in his collection of stories, but that's the main one that I know of. And it's basically like, this kid's out gardening, they're messing in the field, and there's this toe. And so he takes the toe home, ends up being cooked in for, dinner, and it's like eaten. Yeah. And then the owner, the corpse, the spirit of the person who the toe belongs to comes back at night and is like, give me back my toe.
Yeah. And that's even worse because it's like, you can't really give it back.
At that point, yeah.
Like, some things now happen.
Yeah, you've eaten it. So gross. But
well, I don't plan to eat any toes, but
I don't plan to eat clown noses.
I don't plan to eat clown noses either.
Yeah.
So this voice on the phone is saying, give it back. And then he's like, oh, it's a prank call. Like, Ouija's trying to prank him. And he goes to get his spaghetti for dinner from the microwave.
I timed that.
And
I timed the microwave.
Oh, did you? Was it real time?
It cooked for 2 minutes and 27 seconds.
Wow, I like that you timed it.
So I'm thinking, you could feasibly say that it was like he set it for like 2.5 minutes, and then we lost 3 seconds somewhere in there.
I mean, 3 seconds isn't much to lose. That was pretty realistic. I'll give it to him. That's tough to do.
I'll say 2.5 minutes for sure.
They timed it out. I like that. So hopefully gonna eat his spaghetti dinner and probably eat his chocolate pudding off the floor like a 13 or 14-year-old kid would, I guess.
With his fingers.
With his fingers. And
Ugh.
but when he goes back, he sees that the dish is smoking, and he says that it smells like cigars. You guessed it. So he opens the pot. I personally was just glad to see that something in the refrigerator was covered. I was like, they're civilized to some degree. They covered the spaghetti. But anyway, he opens it, and inside the dish is just all these burnt cigars.
This bothered me way more than the dish being uncovered.
The cigars?
The thought of like microwaving cigars for 2.5 minutes.
Yeah.
Bothered me. I was like, that would smell so god
There's
awful.
Yeah, I would hate that.
I don't know. Something about that bothered me. I don't know what that is.
Ugh,
the texture.
Just the headache that you would imagine.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, me and nicotine we're not really like great friends, me and nicotine. But man.
I've never consumed any, but if I did, I know it would turn out poorly for me.
Yeah.
Ugh. We then see this footprint in the spilled pudding, and there's this like Zorro Z in the pudding. So, oh no, Zeebo's been there.
It's so Pennywise. Like the clown, like it's so
because
he would throw these like clownish gags into a lot of his moments that like it's just Stephen King being perfect, throwing in all these old like references and jokes and stuff, and like being super, I don't know, weirdly campy and on the clown nose, just like very clowny. It was like, you know, it's like half birthday party clown, half like literally gonna kill you and eat you,
which is a weird combo.
It's hard line to walk,
and they definitely walk it here. But he sees the Z and he's freaked out, and he runs up to his room and he calls Ouija and he's like, "Are you pranking me? Like, you're pranking me, aren't you?" You know, Ouija's like hearing that he's genuinely afraid, and then Josh admits that he's scared, and he's like, he wants to know if it's Ouija that's prank calling him to teach him a lesson. And then my favorite moment in the episode, there's this scratching on the line.
Click, click.
You know, there's this 90s tech moment where it's like, we all know what that means. Like they're scratching on the line someone else has picked up. And Josh is like, "Kathy, put down the phone." And then we get the line from Ouija where he says, "We only have one phone, Josh. That's got to be coming from your house."
It's coming from inside the house.
It's coming from inside the house. Which, great moment. And I have a note here. Like, obviously, that reminds me of When a Stranger Calls, the whole concept.
Of course.
Of, it's coming from in the house.
That old school urban legend, yeah.
Yes. So I researched that because it has always fascinated me and terrified me as well.
Yeah.
Just the thought of that, and as I was babysitting as a kid when I was younger, it was always just the worst thing I could imagine. But the movie that we're referencing, When a Stranger Calls, the original film came out in 1979. It actually had a sequel in 1993, which I guess I knew, but I don't think I've seen the sequel.
I have not. No.
And then it was redone, like completely reimagined in 2006, which I've seen that version too.
That's the one I saw.
But the story itself of that, like it's coming from inside the house, or someone's calling you, a stalker's calling you from inside the house, was actually based on an urban legend from the 60s.
Although, like, babysitter scare.
Yes. Like, there are different variations on it. A lot of people call it the babysitter and the man upstairs.
Oh, God.
But as part of this legend, basically, the babysitter receives continual calls from this, man stalker. And in most of them, he's telling her to check the children, or breathing heavily. And, he calls multiple times. Even I think Dawson's Creek did a play on this. The hash-slinging slasher.
The hash-slinging slasher, and the kid from Hey Arnold, when he's always like...
Oh, and yes, Brainy. Isn't that his name or something like that? God, I love Brainy. Hey Arnold.
Yeah.
He's always behind Helga, and Helga just smacks him and breaks his glasses.
That's one of those tropes that's been done forever. It's one of those classic things. The breathing on the phone. I mean, there's even a moment of that in the Zodiac film, David Fincher's film. It's happened in real life a whole bunch, and it's happened in fiction a whole bunch. It's one of the scariest things.
So scary. I live in fear of it, honestly. If anybody ever wanted to mess with me, and please God, do not do it. But that would be a way to
So her number is
instantly. so 2. There are a lot of variations on the story. I should probably stop laughing because a lot of this is really dark.
No, it is. It's very dark stuff, but we have to laugh about it because that's how we can sleep at night.
It's true. Otherwise, I never would, I don't think.
No, we have to make jokes about it.
There are some like less gruesome versions of it, and there's actually a version of it that involves a clown.
Really?
Most of the typical endings are, the girl calling the police, and then they trace the call to the house where she's babysitting, and then they have her evacuate the house. In most of the iterations, police come and find that the children have been killed.
Yeah.
And that the Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark did it. A bunch of series and films have adapted this legend. But Wikipedia, so take it, how you wish, but Wikipedia believes that the legend comes from this murder in 1950, where a 13-year-old babysitter named Janet Christman was murdered in Columbia, Missouri. And in that instance, thank God, she was babysitting a little 3-year-old boy, and the little boy was unharmed. But I looked this up, and I found this very detailed thread on Reddit, r/Unsolved Mysteries, a subreddit. And on this thread, they talk about Janet's murder, assault and murder, and then similar attacks that were spurred after that.
Yeah.
And then they talk about the attacker, and it's wild. But basically, like, he was calling while he knew that she would be alone, and, came and got her. And then the parents had called and she didn't answer. They figured she was asleep. And then they came back and found her, assaulted and dead.
Yeah.
Really twisted.
I have heard that story on some podcast or another.
Man.
It is one of the most horrifying things. It sticks with you.
If you're interested in reading it, I highly recommend that thread because he goes into details about the attacker and who they think committed the murder. And he was never apprehended because there were a lot of mistakes in the investigation, but there was a lot of circumstantial evidence to point to the fact that it would have been him. Yeah. And he actually just passed away in 2006 at 83 years old.
Really?
So,
never confessed, nothing.
Never confessed and was never apprehended. But
wild.
Every bit of circumstantial evidence leads to him. So he knew that she was going to be home alone. Yeah. He had been talking to her in the week prior. He wanted her to babysit. He called her to babysit his kid, and she said no, she had to babysit at this other house, which is how he knew she was there.
Did he have actual kids, or was that like a ploy?
He did.
Okay. Wow. God.
It was like another family that lived in the town. Yeah, he had kids.
Yeah.
Wild.
Don't tell anybody anything about your life, ever.
Never.
Don't give them any personal information, no specific details.
Yeah, you never know what might happen, but the whole inside the house thing is just insane to me.
It's wild.
So that was a fun tangent. Not fun at all, but interesting tangent that I went on.
It's educational.
It was educational. And
informative.
Informative. That's what it was. So back in the fictional story, this clown presumably is on the phone, an ominous voice, and the line crackles, and then he says,
"If you don't give it back, I'll come up and get it."
If you don't give it back, I'll come up and get it. Basically informing him he's in the house, and that's very much like you moment where I'm like, please no, don't like that. Ugh. So Josh immediately locks his door, and then he sees this purple balloon blow up under the door.
Pretty cool gag.
Yeah, I was going to say it was a really good gag.
I'm impressed with it.
Yeah, I mean, even killer clowns
tough.
have to have some clown tricks.
Yeah, I wonder what kind of balloon animals he can make. But they had to blow this balloon up under the door, tie off the balloon before they could release the balloon, and tie a string to it. And I watched it like 4 or 5 times right in a row, trying to see if I could see like a noticeable cut, anything that they like put together. I think it was all done in one fluid motion.
Yeah, practical
but
effect.
I don't know how they did it.
Me neither. Still got some tricks. 90s horror. He still got it.
You still got it.
But on that balloon, I neglected to mention that it says give it back. Like someone has written in marker, give it back on the balloon.
And that's a classic Pennywise the Clown, not to keep referencing Pennywise, but you can find entire threads on Reddit about all the things that Pennywise wrote on balloons, or even drawings he drew on balloons to send to the Losers Club, or, just read the novel It by Stephen King. It's fantastic. It's one of the best novels I've ever read. But.
So Josh the mighty bully immediately hightails it out the window, and he scales the roof, and he runs off into the night. The next time we see him, he's running into like a seemingly closed, I guess, Playland theme park. And he's also holding this brown paper bag that he absolutely was not holding when he went out the window.
Yeah.
So I'm like, where'd you get that? Like, where'd that come from? Where'd you go? I don't understand. You were not holding that a second ago. Right. But presumably he's gone somewhere between his house and Playland.
Yeah.
Josh then goes back into this funhouse, and I don't know about you, but the Hall of Doors reminded me vaguely of Discovery Zone, which is a repressed memory that every like 90s child carries. This rainbow, like playland type of, you know, tunnels and ball pits and all that stuff. And it's just this colorful, all these colorful doors, and you pick one.
Super colorful.
Very Discovery Zone.
Yeah.
But he's back in this hall at the end of the maze. I'm just grateful that they turned off the pyro and everybody left, because you never know what might happen in that funhouse.
Yeah.
Like, that's scary.
But I did appreciate that there was still smoke coming out of the dragon's nostrils.
Like threatening at any point he could.
It was like, this is a ticking time bomb, and if you're not careful.
And I mean, I'm scared of that, you know?
Yeah.
That's scary. I don't want my flesh to be burned off. Like, fire is a terrifying thing.
Nah, I like my flesh unsinged.
So he's in this hall of doors, and he opens Zeebo's door, and he is like sincerely apologizing to Zeebo, and he gives him his nose back. And then this minor child then just offers him casually a humidor of cigars.
An enormous, giant box of cigars.
Where did you get
I mean,
these?
that's what's in the bag, right?
Yeah, that's
so
what's in the
he
bag.
presumably stopped by the store on the way to the carnival and purchased.
Who sold that to him is what I want to know.
Right. And how did he afford it?
Really good questions, none of which I have answers
I don't
to.
have any answers to any of those.
Definitely threw me off, though. I was like, dude, where did you get this? How do you have this?
And there was no smoking warning on the... No, I'm just kidding. Like, now there's like mild smoking.
Yeah, they didn't put a disclaimer on the screen or anything.
Yeah.
So Josh then exits the hall to the applause, which I guess they didn't turn off after they closed. So we still get the applause sound effects and everything as he leaves the funhouse. And then we're outside with this scary Dapper Dan guy, and he's smoking a cigar, which, ooh, he's smoking a cigar. Like, is he Zeebo? Oh my God.
What does it mean?
And then he sends us off with that classic rhyme where he says, "It's the most fun in the park when you're laughing in the dark." And I tried really hard not to make a joke in my notes about the innuendo of that. So I just wrote that I tried to not lean into the innuendo.
Can you
literally
explain the innuendo?
No.
So Zeebo's a pedophile?
I mean, I'm not saying that, but I wouldn't be shocked.
He wouldn't be the first clown that's actually a pedophile or a child murderer.
Yikes.
That's one of the things. It's like the insinuation of a lot of these old horrors, like that these are still adult humans that are on the prowl for children. And like, you know, as kids, you understand that. You're like, yeah, I am constantly in danger, stranger danger.
Yes.
But then all these stories have to represent some like adult figure that like could potentially be a figure of safety, and they're not. And quite the opposite.
Yeah, that's
they're
the
actually
worst.
out to get you, which is so dark.
It's the absolute worst when you realize that what should be the safe place is in fact the
Right.
I'm sure we don't have to tell you that, anybody that's listening. Like, it's unsettling and awful, and my heart goes out to anybody that has to deal with that sort of horror of the safe place not being safe.
Absolutely.
But
so my big question is, when he got home back to his house, did he find his like big dish full of spaghetti, or was it full of cigars?
That is a good question.
Is there still a Z in the pudding?
It might reset, kind of like the Twisted Claw.
Yeah. Do you think his pudding is still in the fridge uncovered?
I hope that he didn't put it back in the fridge uncovered. I mean, there may or may not still be any pudding in the bowl. We really don't know the state of the bowl. We never see the bowl again. We only see the splash of pudding on the floor.
No idea.
But we do cut back to the Midnight Society, and Frank starts asking, he's like, oh, that must have been the old guy, right? That must have been him. That must have been Zeebo.
Yeah, the carny.
The kids are kind of arguing about the theories of what could have happened, and they're like, oh, he couldn't have done the stuff in the house. And then I think Gary is like, maybe that guy was Zeebo's, or no. I can't remember. Gary says something to the effect of maybe that guy was Zeebo's ghost.
Yeah. As
they're kind of discussing the theories, they also start to taunt Kristen again because she's chorophobic, and apparently that's just the worst thing you can be in the circle.
Yeah, because Eric just had like a mask ready to go.
Right?
Like, where was that?
Yeah, so Kristen, she's like proud of herself for sticking it out, and she made it through this scary thing that's scary to her.
Yeah.
And then they go and ruin that, and he jumps out at her in a clown mask. Yeah, did he know that there would be a story about clowns? Like,
who knows?
Did they, I mean, are they emailing each other before?
Probably not email. But they probably had, so either, I don't know, either that implies that Eric knows Betty Ann in real life, and she mentioned it was going to be a clown story when she saw him in passing.
Maybe they go to school together. Well, Gary says they all go to different schools.
Different schools had different friends. So maybe they saw each other at the Circle K.
Maybe.
Or something. They just were just like, hey, do we acknowledge each other? Like the members of Fight Club, they're just like, sort of look at each other and kind of go, huh.
That's a great question.
They just nod and keep going.
Do the members of the Midnight Society acknowledge each other in real life when they see each other? Or do they just knowingly give a little, smirk and continue? I don't know.
We'll have to find out, to track that and see.
We should.
Or the other idea is that Eric always has a clown mask in his
sure. And
hoodie,
I mean, that's believable as well.
That kid?
That's absolutely believable. You never know what you're going to get with that kid.
I believe he would.
Yeah. You never know when that would come in handy.
He's the kind of kid that keeps the little shock, handshake shocker.
Yes.
He keeps that. He's got like a whoopee cushion.
I was that kid. I had that thing.
Yeah.
Man.
He's set. He's ready to go. He's ready to prank anybody and make fun of somebody for sure.
At any moment.
Also a clown mask.
So the episode ends. They all run away to spook Kristen. Kristen runs from the ever prepared Eric in his clown mask. And then this is actually the only time, Gary puts out the campfire, and it's the only time that Gary says something other than, I declare this meeting of the Midnight Society closed. All he says in this episode is, he just says, meeting adjourned, and he runs off into the night.
Interesting.
Yeah, that's the tale of Laughing in the Dark.
Yeah.
I do have a couple additional trivia things that I found online about the episode. One of which is that this is also the only episode that has more than one break in the story. Normally the story is being told, and you jump out one time to hear from the Midnight Society, and you jump back in. But excluding that interruption at the beginning when Betty Ann, does the dust and uses the dust and calls in the story, there were two breaks. One at 5 minutes through, and then another at the halfway point when they're just teasing Kristen. So kind of crazy.
That's true. They did harken back a couple times. Yeah. Wow. Interesting. Yeah. Very fun.
And then apparently the roller coaster that is seen in some of the scenes that are introducing Playland is located at the La Ronde Park in Montreal, Quebec, Canada.
Oh, nice.
And so it's apparently still there, but the paint was changed from white to a blue.
We should go.
I would love to go. Count me in. I'm ready. I got friends in Canada. We can do this.
We'll do a big tour of Canada.
That'd be so fun.
Ooh, we could do an Are You Afraid of the Dark tour.
Oh, that would be amazing.
See these filming locations. That'd be awesome.
That'd be really, really cool. I wonder if there are other, we'll have to keep track of that and see if there are any other on location type shoots in Canada.
Yeah, for sure.
Because I feel like a lot of them are just at random houses and farms and
houses and the studio, basically.
Studios, yeah.
Yeah, awesome.
So some final thoughts, I guess, on the episode. I love the Friday night at the fair idea and nostalgia. That entire concept just puts me in the right place. I'm very happy about that. Anything that has that glow of the Midway and the funhouse and the arcade and whatever it is, the neon, I love that retro feeling.
Yeah. I'm
just rose-colored glasses. I don't care how creepy this is on the backside. I enjoy this as a person.
Yeah.
Grease and Stranger Things and all the things that I love, or many of the things that I love.
I like it because it's creepy. It has that edge of danger.
Yeah, and that might be why I like it so much, is that there's this very pleasant, exciting experience, but there is that clear edge, and I like things that are edgy too.
Yeah.
You always want to pretend the sinister parts don't exist, but obviously they do. And then the urban legend in the middle of the story of this episode, where they talk about the clown, man that plays a clown dying in a fire and whatever. That's pretty dark, as you mentioned.
Yeah.
And they didn't water it down. They didn't water it down at all. It was very much just, this is what happened. And they tell the children in the story, and also us as children, not afraid to mention death and cigars and thievery and not arson, but kind of, because he did burn down the funhouse. So
yeah,
it's a lot.
Zeebo stealing the money and running into the funhouse and dying there and all that. I feel like somewhere along the way that was a revision. And I can only hope that originally the idea would be that he killed somebody.
Oh,
or,
harmed
maybe somebody.
Maybe this was the watering down.
This may have been the watered down version, right? And so, because I'm because now why is it haunted? If he was just greedy and just needed some money, maybe had a gambling problem or whatever. It's
yeah. What was so bad about this guy? Okay,
why was he so evil and dark? Besides just stealing I don't know. $60,000
today.
Today's money, but
he was very threatening to Josh. That idea of what would he have done?
That's the thing is he's pretty luring in, come inside and come try your luck, kid. It's just kind of like, what did you really do?
Yeah. All in all, like, I don't want to have a ghost clown stalking me, haunting me, like, not into it.
No, I'm against it.
Don't need it in my life.
Thoroughly against it.
So,
yeah.
So that's pretty spooky.
Yeah. I'm spooked.
And I have like a fun house story. I may have told this to you before, but related to when I worked at the event venue.
Oh yeah, here we go.
Yeah, so it was that night, like one night after we'd closed, some of like the older employees of the event venue kind of took some of the newer employees out onto the midway. And of course it's like totally shut down, like no lights anywhere. The moonlight is all that you have. And it was a little bit spooky.
But the lights are the safety.
Exactly. And even like walking with a group, there were probably like 10 of us. Even walking in that group, like I will never forget seeing all these like attractions and like the things that are supposed to be fun and inviting. Like they look so different in the dark.
Yeah.
Laughing in the dark. Like the whole thing is a different vibe when it's just pitch dark and silent. It's very quiet.
I don't think you were laughing.
I was not laughing. I did by the end, but I wasn't to begin with. Super scary though in the dark. I have to say, like, I'm an adult human and I was an adult human at the time, but still something about that, like walking through there, my heart was just beating. Like you just don't know what to expect. It's very, very off-putting. But they have decided, like the older employees, it's like a tradition, I guess, and some of them like to do this fun house in the dark. So it's the same kind of thing that's pictured, except it's more of just the maze with the mirrors and some like gags on the floor where you slip and slide, and you're eventually like walking upstairs basically, and you come out on the top level and you slide down like a tunnel slide to the bottom. Yeah. So they want us new employees to go through the fun house. So we do.
Hazing.
It's basically hazing. And so we go in kind of one by one a little bit. I didn't want to go in and I was kind of dragged through, and I will never forget being in that fun house in the dark. The moonlight is the only light that you have, and it's like just barely bouncing in from the mirrors. So just the light from the mirror is a shining. It's just absolutely terrifying because I just had that feeling like something's coming.
I can't imagine how scary that would be.
It's
I cannot
pretty
imagine.
like it's not an experience I feel like a lot of people get to have. It's probably not an experience I should have had. So nobody was harmed in the making of this, but
in the making of this memory.
Yeah, in the making of this memory. It's been many years, but as we were leaving, so you go through and you kind of get up to the top. And what we didn't know is that one of the previous employees had gone up the tunnel slide the back way and was waiting inside the tunnel slide to like scare us. And like the first girl that went down, I feel like it could have burst my eardrum. She screamed so loud because it was just like you have all that adrenaline and the idea that something's coming. Yeah. And in that instance, it did. And he like yelled and screamed, scared us. But oh my gosh, like it's something else. If you ever get the opportunity to go through, any of those types of attractions in the dark, you should do it. It was pretty wild.
The dark. You'll be laughing with insanity.
Glad that I have the experience, but man,
yeah,
it was crazy.
Nice.
So yeah. Anyway, what would you rate this on a scary-ometer of 1 to 10? 10 being just wet your pants, scary.
I'm about to wet my pants right now. I don't know. It didn't really do it for me. Like, I like it. It's fun. I like the concept. I love a haunted fun house. I've written a story about one. You've read it.
I have read it. You have written it.
But I think I'd give it like a 4 on the scary scale. Maybe even a 3, but probably like a 4.
Okay. For me, I gave it a 5.
Okay. Mostly
because the idea of any type of stalker or killer, whether it's a clown or not, entering my house and then like calling me is just one of my worst nightmares. So that's where it gets the points for me. But the clown doesn't really.
You get a text at 3 a.m. that says like, I can smell you.
I would straight up just cease to exist. There would be no more me. I couldn't handle it.
Spontaneously combust.
Yes, that's me. But yeah, I'm not really like worried that like the ghost of a thieving clown is going to come after me because I don't act like a punk ass and I don't steal clown noses.
Yo, punk ass. Yeah, like these kids have that like quintessential horror. You have to like earn your fear or your death. You have to, be a jerk or a punk or drink alcohol underage or like have sex, and then you really like
you're now on the path to destruction.
Yeah, it's like a beacon for the monster to come get you. It's like, hey, I'm over here,
and now it knows, and it's coming for you. Yeah,
the clock is ticking.
Yeah, they're always asking for it, or most of the time. But yeah, That's the tale of Laughing in the Dark.
But all in all, it's a good episode.
I did like this episode, and it is pretty popular. A lot of people online seem to say that Zeebo sticks with them. Tell us if he sticks with you. Please email us.
Yeah, let us know.
That's Pretty Dark Podcast at Gmail. Tell us about your...
Let us know your experiences with clowns and fun houses and other like carnivals and such.
Yeah, I would love to read anything like that. Very into it.
Anything like that.
Yep. And while you're at it, like, subscribe to what we're doing.
Like what we're doing. Subscribe what we're doing.
Click the buttons.
Tell us what you want to hear about. Tell us how we're doing like what everybody else is doing, and we should be unique and better.
Yeah, tell us that. We're probably already thinking what you're thinking, so just share it.
We already know we suck, so just tell us we suck and get it over with, and we can be friends, you know?
And then we can be friends. Something like that.
Yeah.
Lame ball. Phoebe.
Anyway, cool. Thanks, guys. We'll see you next time.
Yeah, thanks for listening. We'll see you next time on That's Pretty Dark.
Keep it spooky.
Bye.
Bye.
It's the most fun in the park when you're laughing in the dark.
Thanks for listening to That's Pretty Dark. Written and produced by Christian Baxter Mott and Kaylin Andrews.
Our music is composed by Jonathan Simmons, and our art is provided by Paige Garland at Power Girl Illustration.
Join the collective nostalgia and follow us on Facebook and Instagram at That's Pretty Dark Podcast.
Share your experiences and let us know what shows, films, or villains still haunt you from childhood at that'sprettydarkpodcast@gmail.com. Remember, you're never really alone.
So, until next time, sweet dreams, everyone.
Bark, 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 bark.